So, Bret, you're saying it was a Columbus lawsuit that opened this whole NIL can of worms.
I don't think there's any question, Woody, that Spielman versus OSU, the lawsuit that we did in 2018, was a catalyst that opened up the doors for these national sports lawyers to take on the NCAA. Now, in this example, the defendant in our case was Learfield, which managed most of the pre-NIL money, but the money's coming to these schools from sponsorships, and they didn't distribute it to the athletes. They didn't have to. They certainly didn't want to. They're a for-profit company. But I think the Spielman litigation really set the stage nationally for other players watching that. I mean, Chris is a significant national name. So you've got other players and other lawyers watching this case, and, it was successful. We settled with Learfield and was able to get a few dollars into the players' hands.
So what was this lawsuit all about? Like you see a sign for sponsor X on the side of a flagpole, and it had a player's jersey on it. You were trying to get that player some remuneration?
Well, specifically, here's what happened. Learfield, Ohio State, sold a program to Honda, and longtime Buckeye fans, when they walked into Ohio Stadium, they would see these massive number 36. 45, 27. Woody, you don't have to be even the most ardent Ohio State fan to know those numbers are Chris Spielman, Archie Griffin, Eddie George, and a whole host of other players, and that they were using their name, image, and likeness. They sold this $1 million program, and there wasn't a single nickel that went back to any of the players, which is just grossly unfair. This is obviously all changed with NIL, but that was the specific back in 18 that really created this momentum for players to seek compensation. And at the time, the ironic twist here is that Gene Smith was on the other side of this case with Ohio State, and he wanted nothing to do with paying players. The momentum changed. He was out there doing national interviews saying, we've got to pay these players. And it was really frustrating for us to see him do a 180 when one part of our proposal, our discussions to settle this case was, listen, just pay these players a flat fee. Pay them $10,000 a year. I mean, they need spending money. It's all about the scholarship, the demographics of some of these kids. I mean, they couldn't go on a date. I mean, they couldn't buy anything. And the university was making so much money. And now it's just turned into a show that you can't say on radio because the greed involved with these collectives. Well, they're no longer in existence, but with corporations trying to buy and sell these players. And it's just destroyed, in my opinion, doing this my entire career, really destroyed collegiate athletics. I'm a higher university guy, a MAC school that lost our quarterback to Indiana.
Right.
Probably going to play pro ball. His brother.
Perfect example.
Yeah, we've become a minor league for Power 5 conference. Because those players are going to take money. They're getting offered money. OU's in Athens, Ohio. We don't have major corporate donors or sponsors in Athens, Ohio playing the same players that can go to any major conference.
Talking to Columbus attorney Bret Adams, whose lawsuit he filed on behalf of Chris Spielman 7 years ago, and you contend is what started this whole NIL mess. How does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, to be clear, I wasn't the lead counsel on this. This was a class action suit that was outside of but I was directing traffic on the case, Woody. But it makes it feel like the NCAA blew it. Learfield blew it because they had a chance then. They had a real opportunity at that point to set a standard. And 7 years ago, before this machine exploded, I mean, the average college football player is going to be ecstatic with $10,000 added onto their scholarship for spending money. And we would have stopped this. This would not have happened. So I'm very passionate about it because it has taken away what you and I felt about college athletics as we followed it our entire careers.
I don't think it's ever going to be the same. And in some aspects, while I'll always be a fan, I kind of hate it now.
Well, I hate it because there's no stability and then you've got a different genre, and I know this from representing coaches, you've got a different genre of an athlete that now is wanting and making demands. And sure, there's some that are going to do the work. They know that that's what's going to get them their career. But you've got mid-level players that you need on your team to fill a position just with their hands out, asking for this money and demanding it and saying, I'm not going to come to your school.
There was a high school lineman out of Missouri, #1 tackle prospect in America, Jackson Cantwell. His mom was an Olympian. I know this story because his mom was a Nebraska track athlete, a great one. He demanded $2 million to sign out of high school. He hasn't hasn't played it down a college football yet.
Right. I recall that case, and it's not going to stop, Woody. It's going to continue, and it's just very unfortunate because you don't have the same stability. I'm a basketball guy that really, that obviously changed, but at least you got a player there a couple of years maybe that you can follow their career, or a player that may not play pro ball that you can follow them for 4 years at an institution if they're not going to go early in a draft. And, it's the same thing with football. So, but that ship has sailed.
Before I let you go, Bret, how is this all going to shake out? It seems like some kind of guardrails need to be applied that just aren't there now.
Woody, I'm not sure it's ever going to get resolved, frankly, because there's already been appeals on the settlement because there's an additional lawsuit from 8 female athletes at Ohio State tried to address this by involving some of the NIL money for volleyball in addition to women's basketball. So in trying to have some fairness to women athletics, but so far that has not specifically been addressed. And how does Title IX play into this? How does, and obviously we all know football is a revenue sport, or basketball in some schools, and they're going to get the bulk of the money. Now, to Ohio State's credit, they have said they're not going to take any funding. They're not going to drop any of the other 36 sports. But again, Ohio State's in a rare position to be in maybe the most, depending on which survey you look at, the profitable, athletic, well-funded athletic program in the country. So with the appeals on that issue, I don't know if we're ever going to have this is a lawyer's wet dream, frankly, with all this sports litigation going on because of this settlement.